always stand up. You are on.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Karen Vickers has invocation.
Excuse me. May those assembled here today enjoy the many offerings of Rotary. May we abide by the rules we have established, those of trust, fellowship, and ethics, and may we place service above self in our daily endeavors. And test ourselves and our efforts to be sure they are the truth, good for all concerned, a benefit to mankind, and provide peace and understanding. Amen.
Thank you, thank you. All right, please join me in the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Okay, well, we'll start with some announcements. First up, Marcia.
Hey y'all, so I went around before the meeting and I put out flyers for our community family movie night, which is taking place this upcoming Friday. It will be on the Sawmill Museum grounds. The film itself will start probably around sunset, but we're inviting people to come and gather starting at 7:30 p.m. We're going to be showing the amazingly wonderful classic E.T. and of course we have a subversive lovely message about immigration that goes along with it. So if you are open to joining us and you have little ones who would like to join us too, we invite you to come to this event. I promise there will be activities. There's going to be snow cones. Those are for purchase, and story time and the film. So hopefully you'll be able to make it.
Rock and roll. Does anybody remember like watching ET and then when ET turns white at the end, that's like the most frightening thing that's ever happened in a movie and it like scars you for childhood? So we're gonna scar all the children in Clinton on Friday night. That's probably not the message that Marcia wanted me to say. Well, with that, we'll call Levi.
I think I've gotten to speak to most of you, but I'm Levi Jones. I think I'm still the newest member here. I run Law Jones Funeral Home with my dad and my brothers, and we're building the new funeral home in front of Fairway. And we are finally breaking ground, and we're having that ceremony on Wednesday at 10:30. And I just wanted to let you all know you're invited to come. It's the vacant lot in front of Fairway at 10:30, and there will be light refreshments, and we'll say a few words and have shovels and turn some dirt. It'll be a good time. Thanks. Thanks.
Well, are there any other announcements? I'll call up Braden for fellowship.
I think Andy Ferguson had like 50% of the claps that I just heard, so that was impressive. Anniversary this week, Amy Boji, 1 year on July 15th, so wish Amy a happy anniversary. Guest, Mary Swanson has a guest.
Yes, I do. Stand up. This is Brady Sackmeyer. He is the new director of Sarah Harding Hall, and we are thrilled to welcome him and a potential new member.
Welcome, Brady. Shannon has a guest.
Please welcome Stephen Coltor. He is an intern with YWCA this summer. He's a student at Iowa State in business technology. He's also the son of Rhea Wright that everyone knows from. So please welcome Stephen.
Welcome, Stefan. Are there any other guests not on the list?
I have our intern here from Clinton National Bank, and she'll she's doing where she's going to school.
Hi, I'm Jaden Kissick. I'm an intern in the accounting department, but I've also done a lot of phones. I'm an accounting major at Central College. This year, I hope to go into accounting afterwards, but who knows what'll happen.
Welcome. Any other guests? All right, seeing none. The Major League Baseball All-Star Game is tomorrow, and with that in mind, we're going to do some All-Star Game-related trivia. We'll start with Andy's table. Which player? Oh, sorry. I have hints for all of these. So the rule is, if you get it right, $3. If you get it wrong, $5. If you use my hint and get it right, $4. So you can save yourself a buck if you get it right without the hints. All right, Andy's table. Which player has the most All-Star Game appearances?
That was good. Let's do a hint.
Okay, his most famous moment came on April 8th, 1974 in Atlanta, Fulton County Stadium, where he hit a high drive into left center field.
Roger Clemens. Is that a name?
Roger Clemens is a pitcher.
Never mind. Name another baseball player. Luke here. Nope, that's.
All right, what's the guess?
We're out.
You're out. The answer is Hank Aaron, who has 25.
Sorry. You're on my deaf side.
On April 8th, 1974, he hit the home run that set Major League Baseball's home run record at the time. All right, Gary Foster's table. Which active players have the most All-Star Game appearances? There are 2 of them.
You could have said that.
I didn't say it. I said it like.
You didn't say the sun first. I also didn't hear it.
Jose Ramirez, one of them?
He is not. You can have another guess if you want.
Go ahead.
All right, the answers are Clayton Kershaw from the Los Angeles Dodgers and Mike Trout from the Los Angeles Angels. They both have 11. So Hank Aaron was kind of special. There was a 4-year period in the late 50s and early 60s where they had 2 All-Star games per year. So he actually has more appearances than seasons played in the majors. All right, Dale Dalton's table. Most people in town are either Cub or Cardinal fans, so the next 2 are Cub and Cardinal questions. What Cub has the most All-Star game appearances? You can ask for the hint if you don't know. Who?
What, an individual player?
An individual player for the Cubs.
Rhino?
No.
Ryan Sandberg?
Nope, the correct answer is Ernie Banks with 14. Yeah, so he was right. My table in the back. Which Cardinals player has the most All-Star game appearances? You can use your hint. Andrew's not right. Don't have any idea? The answer is Stan Musial with 24. Tom Detterman's table. Who has the most All-Star game home runs? Mickey? Incorrect. The answer is also Stan. Front table. The 2002 All-Star Game famously ended in a tie after the 11th inning. The game only ended in a tie because in the first inning, Minnesota Twins center fielder robbed a Barry Bonds home run. What was the Minnesota Twins center fielder's name?
We'll take the hit.
His initials are TH, and he's been on the Hall of Fame ballot for 5 years now, though he's not likely to get a try.
Torrey Hunter.
That is correct.
All right, guys. Well, our speaker today is Senator Mike Zimmer. Mike, you can come up here. I've gotten it's been a great time getting to know Mike over the last couple of years, and I'm glad that he's able to visit with us today. And if you think Mike is awesome, Mike's wife is so much better. So yeah. So thank you, Mike.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, thank you very much. And the reason I'm standing here before you is because 7 months ago, I would say about 6 days before Christmas, your, at that time, current Senator Chris Canoyer, was elevated to current lieutenant governor. So that left an opening and there was a special election. And so the nice thing is, it is just wonderful running an election in Iowa in January. It's just great out there, knocking doors when it's just freezing. So anyway, that's why I'm here. I represent, again, Senate District 35, which is Northern Scott County, all Clinton County, and Southern Jackson County. And some things on my naivety, and I'll cue to Joe Brown and Tom Detterman, if they'll just keep the chuckles at least under the table a little bit. I had no idea, one, what a clerk was, or that I even needed a clerk. So I was blessed enough that my wife said, sure, I'll be your clerk. And so we sit like right next to each other for long periods of time. So, oh, sorry. I'll get back over here. And so my wife is my clerk. And the other thing is, I always knew through government class that yes, we're a two-party system, but that's about the extent of it. I didn't realize that in this country, for somebody to say, I'm going to run and be an independent, or I'm going to be a Green Party or some other party, I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen, because our buildings are built on a two-party system. As Tom will tell you, and Joe will tell you, the state capitol has 4 individual domes. One side is for the House Democrats and the Republican Democrats, and the other side is for the Senate Democrats and the Senate Republicans. So the structure itself is like that. And the place that you come together is basically at the rotunda. The other piece that I didn't realize is that there is a whole support staff out there that is paid by us that support their full-time employees, and they support the legislators. And so on the Senate side, we have Democratic staffers that's their full-time job all year round, and they are assigned to the different committees, and then they do the research and they provide the background information. Because as I learned, especially, Tom, thank you very much, I didn't realize we had so many things wrong with Iowa until the House Republicans sent over dang near 1,000 bills, and I was like, holy crap, you guys can slow her down a little bit. Meanwhile, on the Senate side, we only cranked out maybe 250 or so. To give you an example of what that looked like, when we get about, I don't know, Tom, March, end of March, April, it went a little slower this time because there were some issues that came up, but the yellow envelopes came over from the House side, and the yellow envelope represents a House bill. They were all over the Senate chamber. I was like, every desk had yellow folders all over them. I was like, holy smokes. But I say that because there were approximately 1,200 bills between the House and the Senate side that came forward, or which talked about. And there's absolutely no way that you can stay on top of that many bills. And so when I was elected, I was asked what committees that I would like to serve on. And so I looked at what I guessed were some areas of importance. One was transportation, and I was on there for one reason, basically, and that was because of Tom. If I know one thing, there's one guy that has the Highway 30 emblem on everywhere he goes, and that's Tom. And so I thought, well, I need to be on that. Health and Human Services because of the mental health districts and just the needs that we have, and that I experienced from both the public education side. I also on ag. I think ag is fairly important in this area. The other one I was on was education. That was kind of like a no-brainer because I spent 40 years and retired in June 30th, 2023 after serving 40 years in public education. And then the last one I asked to be on was natural resources. And so those are the 5 committees that I serve on and in your voice, on your behalf. And if there's other bills that come up on the House side, I might have to go over and ask Tom what is going on, because I may not know. And likewise, Tom's not going to necessarily know what's coming, because we're so focused on, the committees that we're serving on and the bills that come in. And I know I just did a crap load of reading. And also I'd be on the phone constantly talking with, whether it be Wes, if it's an education thing, if it's a secondary or post-secondary, Brian Kelly. If it was natural resources, I'm on the phone with Chance Neese. So I mean, I would call constantly saying, hey, this is coming up. Let me read through it. What do you think? The other piece that I was completely oblivious about is the whole process of a bill. So I arrived a month after the session started. I didn't know. All of a sudden, I'm assigned to these things. All of a sudden, well, you're going to a subcommittee. Okay, well, where's that at? And again, a subcommittee, the importance of it, I learned pretty fast. That's your voice. That's your one and only chance as a citizen to actually address a bill right from the get-go. Because on a subcommittee, on the Senate side, there's 3 people that serve on it. And right now that balance would be like 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And how you get assigned to that is usually the ranking member, that would be the minority party. The ranking member will be given these bills, and then they choose on their party who they like to serve on that. And oftentimes, the ranking member would just say, I'll go to that meeting, and I'll go to the subcommittee. I happen to be assigned as the ranking member of agriculture, and I thought, well, that's pretty hefty for being the first person in there. When I found out that the agriculture committee on the Senate side only met twice, I'm like, okay, well, I guess we don't have very many things going on in agriculture. That was it. But anyway, that's where in that 30-minute time frame, that's when any of you can pop on, because it's either virtual or you can be in person, and you want to have your comments ready to go. You got about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. That's a long. 3 minutes is a long time for an individual to talk and make their case either before or against or whatever they want to talk about, and then they keep moving along. So that was an interesting process. And then also when a bill advances and it gets to the committee, well, then all of a sudden when the committee meets, they might be talking about 7 or 8 bills at one time, at least on the Senate side. Tom, I don't know how many you're talking about. There's got to be a lot more than that to get through as many as you did. But anyway, and the other piece that was interesting to me is that I know there's a lot of discussion about, oh, that's when you're going to have the sharing of ideas during a floor debate. Wrong. That doesn't. Basically, what happens during a floor debate, when it comes to the Senate side, I can only speak to that. If a bill comes to the floor of the Senate, it's already passed. It's done. Well, how do I know that? Because the majority party has already done a head count. They're not going to bring it up if they know they don't have the votes to pass it on their own. They don't need any votes from the other party, period. They don't. Except one time. One time that did happen this session. It had to deal with the eminent domain. And the eminent domain did all of a sudden cause some kind of excitement, I would say. But that bill also was one that went through. And it went to the governor's desk, and I will do a handout here. As a matter of fact, if you guys want to grab some of those, you can just, what's coming around is out of the 1,200 and some bills, there were 171 that the governor acted on. So I say that to you because I think it's important to know that the process oftentimes works. When a bill or an idea has to go through a subcommittee, a committee, and then to the floor of a chamber for debate, then if it passes that, then it has to go to the other chamber and we just trade, and it has to go through the process all over again. That's why all of a sudden you see those ideas get tempered down most of the time. So the bills here, I thought you would find interesting, the 171. The governor signed 169. She vetoed 2 outright, and she did a line item veto on 1. So that's kind of what happened this last session. And the other thing is, I graded myself, and I think Tom and Joe also have been. The media always pulls on the most controversial. But in this instance here, if you look on the second page when it's coming through, I missed 8 votes. I was absent. There were 2 days out of, and this was after session was officially over. I missed 1 day when my grandson had brain surgery out in Iowa City. I was where I needed to be. And the second one is I also have another part-time job with Mississippi Bend AA overseeing career technology education for 18 school districts. So, and there was a funding thing that I had to be there for. But outside of that, I take being present very seriously. And I think I voted for 132 or 133 of the 171 bills, which was basically 77% of the time I voted for those. And then there were 34, 32 or something bills that I voted against. So, and I kind of recorded all those that are there. And so I thought you might find that kind of interesting, that oftentimes, again, you talk about bipartisanship and what are you voting on, so on and so forth. And again, the media doesn't pick up on most of that stuff. So anyway, that's kind of the start of my journey and adventure, I would say, for my wife and I being out there. And the other thing that I also didn't pay attention to, or I guess I just wasn't aware of, is that this was the 91st Legislative Assembly. This was year A, or year 1. Next session, when we convene on the second Monday of January, we'll just pick right up with where they left off. And so I had to do some asking around to say, well, if the bills that didn't make it through this year 25, do they have to start all over in 26? And the answer is, that's all dependent upon the committee chair. The committee chair wants to start a bill all over from the subcommittee and advance it all the way through, they can do that. Or we could actually start on the second day with debate from right where the bill left off when we finally convened at 6 o'clock in the morning in May. By the way, they warned me about this. Great minds, great legislation is passed at 1, 2, and 3, and 4 in the morning. I'm being really sarcastic. The last thing, and then I'm going to open it up to the floor. I was warned about the standings bill. The standings bill is the last bill that is passed that represents the end of the session. And I was warned that there can be stuff stuck in that bill that didn't go through subcommittee, didn't go through anything. In other words, the leadership can pick some topic out and they can slide it into that standings bill and it can just get an up or down vote. I say that because I got a call about the second week after the legislative session was over from Channel 6 News. I don't know, Tom might have gotten a call or something. I got a call in the news and they said they want to know about, hey, what's your thoughts about the 911 bill? I said, the 911 bill, what are you talking about? And they said, well, you know, we've got our local emergency management systems are really upset. The fire department, fire chiefs are upset, police chiefs are upset, all that kind of stuff. I said, holy smokes. So I went back and I looked at the standings bill. It had been slid in. It was Division 12. And what it was a bill in which the state FEMA or emergency management system can go to the 99 counties emergency management systems and they can bill them for whatever amount of money they feel necessary to build the statewide system up. And I'm like, where did this come from? Well, I come to find out at 9 o'clock in the morning, I knew nothing about it. By 1 o'clock, I was down in the news speaking about it. So in that amount of time was a whole lot of phone calls and a whole lot of explanation. And again, I'm going to thank Chance Neese for sending the letter to me and all that kind of stuff. And it was a situation in which the House Majority Leader saw that there was $60 million in the 99 counties emergency management systems that they weren't spending. Well, what they were doing is they were saving and building the money up so that when the time came to increase the power of a cell tower for the emergency management system, or to buy new radios at $3,000 to $5,000 a piece to replace, say, the entire fire department, something like that, they wanted money there that they could go and do that, purchase what they needed, and be done with it. As Chance said, well, where does that money come from? All of us that have cell phones, we get charged $1 a month for 911 services. And that dollar, 60 cents of it goes to Clinton County, Jackson County, Scott County, goes to the 99 counties, so wherever you live. And 40 cents goes back to the state for their EMSs. Well, at 40 cents a month, they were finding out, they meaning the state were finding out that, well, that's not building the coffers fast enough for us to do what we need to do. And so then they were turning around and wanting to raid the county ones. And what was interesting about this is that when I was speaking with Chance, he said, you know, our coffers weren't being built up fast enough either. And I had to go to the Clinton County, the residents of Clinton County, for a bond referendum to pass a bond to get more money in so that we could update our cell towers and our radios and that kind of stuff. And so I bring that full circle back because that's the whole conversation about our property taxes are too high. Our property taxes are too high. I can understand that, but just remember that either Tom or I or anybody at the state level, the state does not collect property taxes. The only agencies that collect property taxes are your school districts, your cities, and your counties. They level property tax that we vote on. So if we wanted the the regional centers that we just added on, that's in Clinton and DeWitt and that kind of stuff, well, we as voters voted on that. That's part of the property tax. The 911 services. That's part of property tax if you're not able to accrue enough money as you're moving along. So it just made an interesting dialogue coming all the way back around on something that got slid in, and we were pleading with the governor, quite honestly, we sent a letter saying, would you please line item veto that section 12 on there and let the counties deal with it, and then let that go back to the whole process of a subcommittee so you can actually hear from the counties EMF services about why they had this money there. It didn't. It ended up going through, but it got signed. But anyway, I just give you a couple examples of some things that I learned. I thought was interesting to share with you, and I'll leave it open for questions or anything like that of things that you're always wondering about. Yeah, is there a staircase that goes all the way up to the top? Yes, it is. It's a spiral one, it's narrow.
As a member of the minority party, do you feel like you can make significant changes to legislation, or are you just voting basically?
No, no. We make no significant changes to legislation because our vote is not needed, except for the eminent domain. And then it was needed. And it was interesting watching that dialogue go back and forth. The only thing that a minority party has is your voice, and that's to speak out during the floor debate. We can speak up during the committee. I can express that. But again, a committee chair is not going to bring a bill up if they know if they don't have the votes to pass it just on a party line vote, it won't even see the light of day. And the other thing, to answer your question, any legislator can write a bill, but on the Senate side, if I wrote a bill and I take it to the committee chairperson, they'll say, oh, sure, Mike, here, you can floor manage the bill. Good luck getting any two Republicans to agree to be on the subcommittee. And it just dies. And he knows, everybody knows that. It's just like, okay, there you go. And that's it. At least on the Senate side. That's how it is. Now, on the House, I hear maybe on occasion there's a little bit more there, but I don't know. My experience on the Senate side is absolutely not. So my best bet to have an impact is one, I need to convince the committee chair that this is their best idea. This is your idea. If I can convince them of this and slide it that way, great. I don't even try to say co-sponsored, that's out. It's gotta be their idea, or it will not see the light of day. So that kind of gives you an idea. But I will also say it doesn't, and I'm not picking on Republicans. I feel sorry. I really do, having gone through this. If I were a Republican over in Illinois, downstate, and I was having to show up to Springfield with a Democratic supermajority, I'm just telling you, anybody that's in that situation, I give them all the kudos in the world to keep showing up and going back to the Capitol every day when you know that's what you're going to face. On either way, I wish it wasn't that way, but it just is. Where you get some of the best legislation is when you're close to a 50-50 or thereabouts. Then all of a sudden it gets a little harder to just get guaranteed votes, because now all of a sudden individuals can speak up and say, I don't know if I agree with that on either side of the aisle. And that's when you get some of your better stuff. And by the way, Tom, I don't know if I think the best legislation occurs between the months of, I'm going to say June to December. Why do I say that? Because that's when you can get people together, you can have a meeting and say you want to talk about, let's say Highway 30. Let's say we want to talk about that. So we get the people at the table, you talk about that. You leave the meeting, you have some time to process it. You can come back to the next meeting and say, hey, I had a chance to talk to XYZ. I had a chance to talk to some of the towns, and oh, we hadn't thought about that. Well, let's make that change. To me, the worst legislation occurs during session. And that's because we're all running around like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off, going to 5 different meetings, subcommittees, committees. You've got all of your lobbyists are out there pressing you. And unfortunately, it seems like the person that has your ear the last time, they're the ones that have the loudest voice, because you can't remember the person that talked to you 2 weeks earlier, or sometimes 2 days earlier. So I would also say, and this is the important, lobbyists are really important. They're very, very important. They're paid voice to be out there. So there's so much stuff going on that you guys, all of us are working day to day, taking care of family. You're not sitting there paying attention every single moment. Well, that's what the lobbyist is out there for. And so what I would do is when a bill came up right off the bat, I would go and look at the bill and look at the declarations page. I'd look to see what lobbyists were for or against it, and would give me an idea where the landscape was at. Then I would pick the phone up and start calling, whether it be the banks or whatever it would be. I would be calling and say, hey, tell me what this is what your lobbyists are saying, but is this what you are also feeling one way or another? So, great question. Dave.
Thank you. Clifton, Iowa is the ones that started the gas tax. And we were also the ones that did transportation data past the gas tax. And transportation, I think, is the number one reason to look at when you locate. And one of the commissioners came up with an idea that just was kicked out here a year or so ago, called 4x4 program. Four lanes north-south, four lanes east-west. And Iowa is competing with all the county or the states around, and transportation is so important, I think, to both of Iowa. I think we're going to be short on people in this state, and we need that good transportation if we like to.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree more. And Tom can confirm. I kept asking, I said, Tom, when the House passes your bill again, let me know. And so he told me, hey, it passed. So I went over and I talked to the transportation chair, Senator Klemesh. I said, hey, this is coming over, can we at least give it a subcommittee? Here, I mean, again, this is Republican talking to Republican. His response was, we're not gonna sit there and tell the Department of Transportation how to spend their money. I was like, excuse me, hell, it gets stuff to tell every other group about how to spend their money. Why is this any different? But I don't know what the burr in the saddle is, Tom, about that 40 miles from Lisbon to DeWitt, is what the deal is with that. And I got even more upset about it when I drove down to Fort Madison and I saw all 4 lanes, Highway 60 going down there. The grading is all in. I was like, well, there's no more or less traffic on this road down here than there is on 30 being in between. So we're not giving up yet, but it's just, Dave, it's just goofy. I just don't understand it, to be very honest with you, why that divided cannot get done. And when I did the tour with ADM and talked with them about, they really want to have that because they don't want their grain trucks sitting there going through Clarence and going through Mechanicsville and all that kind of stuff. They want to be able to go around and get from their Cedar Rapids plant over here to their Clinton plant. So I don't know, maybe they need to put a little bit more pressure on there. So, but great question. You know. Other things you're wondering about.
We're talking about a subcommittee, the public can come and kind of give their piece. Can you ever remember a specific time where your mind has changed during that?
I will give you a great example, and this comes with the Pharmacy Benefit Management, PBM. I had no idea what a PBM was at all. So day one is that. 2 weeks later, I was like, my God, if I did any more reading and calling. It was at a subcommittee. So I knew that I was going to hit one of these situations where people that have supported you, whether it was the unions, I had our local banks that were saying, Mike, you got to vote against this. The unions were like, you got to vote against this. And then I had the independent pharmacies that say, we're dying. If we don't get some relief on this. And this was a gal from Charles City. So she'd gotten her farm med degree from the University of Iowa. She left Iowa. I don't know if she went to Ohio, wherever she went, but she came in and I think they let her talk for like maybe 4 or 5 minutes. And she said, here's my story. I got married. I wanted to move back to Iowa. I wanted to raise my family in Iowa. I wanted to be back in my hometown, Charles City. That's where I wanted to be. And the pharmacist at that time was getting ready to sell, wanted to retire. And so she said, I went in, got a loan, bought the pharmacist, and she said, this is where I plan to be. And so she said, if we don't get some help with the PBMs of what's going on, they're basically rerouting all of the prescriptions and everything to online services. She said, I'm not going to make it. I will be out of business. And so that convinced me right off the bat. I understood that our union side and our banks are like, hey, this is cutting into our insurance side of our business. The unions were being told by Wellmark that if you pass this, we're going to raise your rates. It's going to cost you 40 cents an hour. And then as the session went along, it went down to 30 cents and it was down to 25. I'm like, oh. What was interesting, and I had a chance to speak with, and I'll just say, Greg Gannon over at DeWitt Bank. I said, Greg, you know, you were out, you talked to me out in the morning, really honed in on this one. He said, well, we're caught in a kind of a rock and a hard place because yes, we've got the insurance side of our business that we want you to vote no. But on the other hand, there's a number of our banks that hold the notes for these independent pharmacists that we don't want them going out of business either. So it's just like, okay. So that's one where there was a lot of conversation and discussion going on. But that, you gave an example. That was one where I was like, okay, if this is somebody's livelihood and we can help address that, that's where my moral compass is going to lie, is there. You know, you can't always save everything, but her story was very impactful. And it helped make the bill better. Not everybody got everything they wanted. So there's an example. Tom.
Property tax is going to be the big issue. Do you have any comments on property tax?
Yeah, I'm just going to be flat out. If somebody from Des Moines, myself, starts telling you that we're going to be able to solve property tax, I'm going to quote Pat Grassley, who was on Iowa Public Television, and also Gary Moore, who chairs the Appropriations Committee on the House side. It's hard. Because I believe the government works best when it's closest to the people. And you can't get any closer than your county supervisors, as Tom was one, or your city council people, or your school board members. They're the ones that have to face you every time they either go to a school event or something like that. And the issue that we're gonna run into is that I'm gonna call it taxing equity. So right now, when we lowered corporate tax from the 8% to the 5%, okay, we took that off the table. Then when we capped income tax at 3.8%, now that one's off the table. And now we want to try and reduce property tax, and it's going to be state legislature, state house represent dictating to cities and I'm like, you better watch what you're stepping into, because all of a sudden, who's gonna pick up the cost of those services? And I'm just gonna tell you the dirty little secret, there's only one other taxing bucket left that has not been talked about, and that's sales tax. Tom and Norman talked about it when they first started the session off, that if we don't watch where you're going with this, you're gonna start seeing that income having to come from somewhere, and it's gonna start raising sales tax. And now all of a sudden, sales tax, that's one of the most regressive taxes. It also makes any product made in Iowa more expensive when you're gonna sell it to anybody outside of, in Iowa. But that's one I'm watching really, really closely about. I know Thomas talked about that. So right now in Iowa, the sales tax is 6% plus the 1% that is for the school districts on the state. We've held at 7%. Also be aware that in our Constitution passed 10 years ago on a 60% was it's with conservation, parks, that kind of, the first 3/8 of a cent. When it gets raised, the first 3/8 of a cent goes towards supporting our parks, conservation effort, all that kind of stuff. There was actually a Senate joint resolution that came up where there was a group of Republican senators that wanted to have that put on the ballot, to have people vote on it again, to have it removed, and it didn't make it. But that was my first indication that, oh, they're fishing around on the sales tax thing, trying to lay the groundwork for this. So I know no one wants to pay taxes, but the thing that makes me really nervous is when all of a sudden counties and cities and school districts lose that ability on the property tax. That's the only thing they have guaranteed, because if you think that you can count on Des Moines to be holding up their end of the bargain about money coming over, cities learned that lesson about 5 years ago. It was like, oh, we're gonna backfill, and then they could afford to backfill, and then you lost that. So what we're getting to, and I don't mean this, it's not partisan, Iowans are gonna have to make a decision on what services they want to have and what that's gonna cost. So we bought this year was $917 million borrow from the rainy day fund. And the projection is negative spending for the next 4 years after that. I don't know where it's going. I just do not know. So great questions. I hope that I stayed out of being partisan. I'm trying really, really hard. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike. And Mike, every week we have a book for the Clinton Public Library's Children's Department that we have our speaker sign. And this book is called "This is a School." So that fits well into Mike's background there. Well, thank you to Mike and Jill for our program. Thank you to Karen for our invocation. Thank you for Braden for fellowship. And everybody enjoy your week. So with that, unite for good.
Sorry, I didn't see that.
I was like,
I was ready, and then I thought.
I was over there being like,
No, I didn't,
I
sorry.
texted Joe, I'm like, you're doing this, right? Well, I have an appointment with Joe. I'm not set up to like, I'm like, well, wait a minute, like this.
Yeah,
So,
well, I thought you was, I'll send her an email,
yeah,
apologize.
we'll get things figured out. So, no, it worked out okay. So, rock and roll, brother.
Very good, good man, thanks.
Everybody kind of back to normal.
Hi, Dale.
How are you, young lady?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I have another invoice to give you, but not today.
Okay.
I don't know if you got that other Amazon one since or
Looks like you got a lot of fun.
Thanks, Brenda. I at all. No, I get that.
All right, I'll see you later.
Yeah, we'll talk.